On October 7, 2023, Hamas murdered Jews, Israeli Arabs, and non-Jewish foreign workers alike. Of the around 1,200 murdered people, 39 were Thai. A further 26 Thai people were taken hostage, and 19 were injured. 4 Filipino nationals were murdered, and 2 were abducted. 2 Tanzanians and 10 Nepali students were killed, and 1 taken hostage. 4 Chinese people died in the attack, and 2 are still missing. 1 caregiver from Sri Lanka and 1 from Moldova were murdered. So why were all these Asian and African people in Israel? Some of them are students of agriculture who come to Israel for a work experience in a kibbutz, like the Nepali and Tanzanians. The Filipinos come to Israel as caregivers for elderly and disabled people. They have stories too, and I will tell them in my next videos. The Thais work on farms. Israel's agriculture relies heavily on foreign workers. There is simply too much work, and there are not enough people who are prepared to do it. For many Thai people, working in Israel is the best and the fastest way to make money to take care of their families. For them, the salary of a farm worker is a lot of money. There are an estimated 30,000 Thai workers in Israel. Most of them are male and work in agriculture. In my kibbutz, there are around 30. They work in the field and the orchards, and in the dairy farm. They live in housing away from the kibbutz, in the fields, where they have some land to grow vegetables, keep chickens and other small animals. There are Thai shops and supermarket vans that cater to their needs, supplying them with Thai groceries. Is everything perfect? No, definitely not. I do think that in most kibbutzim, the Thais are valued highly and treated well. But there are cases where Thai workers are exploited and not cared for properly. Their living quarters are usually not up to Western standards. They often have no air conditioning and sometimes no adequate bomb shelter. There are agencies and laws that are supposed to protect the rights of foreign workers, but in reality there isn't enough supervision, and the Thais often don't know where to turn if things are not okay. There is a huge cultural divide between them and the Israelis. They usually do not speak any English or Hebrew when they arrive here, so communication is very difficult. Most of them pick up words and phrases over time, but a real conversation is often not possible. I speak to them about my chickens sometimes. They seem very gentle, friendly, and quiet. Which is why the fate of the Thai people from the attacked kibbutzim on October 7 really broke my heart. So many murdered and severely hurt, so many violently abducted. They have nothing to do with the conflict between Israel and Gaza. Many of them didn't even know about it. They are Buddhists or Christians, not Jews. All they did was come to Israel to work and earn money to support their families. The way they were cruelly slaughtered along with everyone else shows again that Hamas broke into Israel that day with no other goal than to kill anyone they saw and to inflict as much pain as possible. Anyone who stood in their way was mowed down. Fortunately, the Thai government did not take this lying down. Somehow they managed to get Hamas to release their Thai hostages. I have no idea what they threatened or bribed them with. During the ceasefire from November 24 to 30, 19 Thai hostages were released. All of them were men, except for one, Natavari Mulkan. I have to apologize here, because I will probably not pronounce the Thai names the right way. I'll do my best, so please forgive me if I get it wrong. In this photo, Natavari Mulkan stands in the middle of all the men, in a yellow jacket. Her partner, Buntom Pankong, is standing at the far right. They were the subjects of a strange story that circulated in the first weeks of the war. The story went that Natavari was 9 months pregnant when she was abducted, and that she had given birth in the dungeons of Hamas. People couldn't imagine anything worse, and outrage exploded. The story spread like wildfire over the internet. but it turned out not to be true. Natavari was released with no baby and no sign of having given birth. We all heaved a sigh of relief. I'm not sure exactly how the story started. It is said that Sarah Netanyahu wrote a letter to Jill Biden claiming that one of the hostages had given birth. I don't know where she got it from. And before you ask, I'm one of the many who oppose Netanyahu. We have been calling for his resignation for a very long time. In a heartwarming twist, Natavari Mulkan made friends with an Israeli child and mother during their time in the tunnels of Gaza. Emilia, aged 5, and her mother, Danielle Aloni, became close to Natavari. They taught each other words and songs in their languages and promised to visit each other. We are family now, Danielle said in a video call after they were all released. This is Natavari talking about her experience.
เข้าไปถามเขาว่าเนี่ยฉันอยู่ประเทศไหนเหรอเขาก็บอกว่ากาซาคือที่ไหนพี่ยังไม่รู้จักอะไรนะมีนาโนอยู่ข้างในอยู่ตรงนู้นเนาะเห็นใจกันแล้วมันเกิดการผูกพันเราพูดไม่ได้เขาก็แปลภาษาให้อย่างเงี้ยแบ่งปันอาหารให้กันกินอย่างเงี้ยค่ะคุยแบบเรื่องกินเพราะว่าเราหิวเขาพูดเดี๋ยวพากลับเมืองไทยนะเดี๋ยวไปกินผัดไทยอย่างเงี้ยอะไรนะมีนาโนดีใจมากเลยอ่ะดีใจบอกไม่ถูกโหทรมานจิตใจมากเลยที่อยู่ข้างในเรารอดแล้วเนาะเรารอดจริงๆเหรอโยก็รักเขาเหมือนครอบครัวเลยนะทั้งเด็กรักเหมือนลูก
Another very touching story is the story of one Chai Monsana, a Thai man who miraculously survived the massacre. Monsana is 44 years old, has been in Israel for 4 years, and does not know any Hebrew or English. On October 7, he was burned severely, but managed to escape the slaughter. He ran and ran, wounded and exhausted, for 2 days until he arrived in the city Beersheba and was taken to the Soroka hospital. He was immediately treated for his injuries. He had sustained burns to 50% of his body. He was in septic shock and he was close to death. He was anesthetized, intubated, and underwent skin grafts and partial amputation of his right foot. It's unbelievable how he could have run so far, so severely wounded. Incredibly, he survived, but no one could speak to him. They didn't know who he was or who he used to work for. All the people he knew, his boss and his co-workers, had all been murdered. He was alone and he had nothing. Until Chotika Fuchs, a Thai woman married to an Israeli man, heard about the nameless Thai man in the hospital of Beersheba. She went to visit him and spoke to him. She and her husband Kobi spread his incredible story and asked the Israeli public to help him. And they did. So many people came to visit him, bearing gifts and money, that the hospital had to restrict the visits so Monsana could rest. Both Israelis and Thais came to see him. They brought him a new phone, clothes and Thai food. Chotika and Kobi Fuchs have been visiting Monsana frequently and organized a fundraiser for him. His story has a happy ending. His insurance pays for all his hospital costs, and the Israeli government will give him benefits and damage payments for the rest of his life. This is standard, and it's done for all survivors of terror attacks in Israel. Monsana will return home to Thailand and he will be with his family. He won't have to leave them again just to make a living. but at what cost? He was severely damaged, both physically and mentally. I just hope his scars will heal over time and he can be happy again. Another Thai survivor, Ponsawan Pinakalo, told the story of his captivity in Gaza in the UK Telegraph. The article is called 50 Days in Chains. I will link it in the description of this video. The following is an excerpt from the article. The ankle chain that prevented Ponsawan Pinakalo from escaping his Hamas captors was no more than a meter long. Shackled to the wall of what he thinks was a school classroom, the 30-year-old Thai farmer was unable to move, even as bombs fell all around. To his side was a bucket, a make-do toilet that was never emptied during the 50 days in captivity. Not once did he shower. There were moments in the room when I was talking to myself, and I thought, "Am I going crazy?" he said. But I am not crazy. I am the one who survived. They didn't break me. He was guarded by 3 men who kept their identities hidden. When they entered the room, they either shone a torch in his eyes to blind him, wore a mask, or covered half their face with their hands. All were cruel. He says he was never sexually abused, but was regularly hit and kicked. Yet he did not share specific details about the violence he endured, fearful it could make the situation worse for the 130 or so hostages still in Gaza, including 8 Thais. Yet it was not the beatings, the bombings, or the solitary confinement that almost broke him. It was the hunger he endured. During his darkest moments, he prayed for his own death. Yet the end never came. He was kept alive, barely, by the tin of tuna handed to him each day by the Hamas guards. During his 7 weeks in captivity, he lost 22 kilos. Now, the 30-year-old is preparing to spend some time as a monk, to thank Buddha for his survival. But despite pleas from his family, he is also considering a return to Israel. Deep down, I know I want to go back. I think it would be the only way to fight through my pain, he said. I don't think the war will end soon, but I'm not scared. I have my wounds, but if I keep staying here, it's like I'm escaping the problem. I think I need to go back to heal. After the end of the ceasefire, 7 Thai nationals are still unaccounted for. We don't know if they are hostages, if they have been murdered in captivity, or if they were killed on October 7 and their bodies abducted. Every option is terrible. The families of all these young men are in pain and mourning. The released hostages are physically okay, but mentally deeply traumatized. There is a horrific video that Hamas uploaded and that circulated online. In it, someone, a terrorist or a Gazan civilian, is trying to behead a victim with a shovel. The victim in question is Thai. I haven't watched it and I won't, but the description makes my stomach turn. I cannot understand the evil of doing something that gruesome like that to anyone, but especially an innocent foreign worker. These are terrible, dark things that are impossible to forget and forgive. The people who did this have become inhuman monsters. The Thai government has evacuated a lot of Thai workers from Israel. Some of them are planning to go back, but there is now a gaping hole in the workforce of the agriculture of Israel, which is now being filled by volunteers from Israel and from other countries. Already, workers from Africa and India are being recruited to come to work in Israel. The only thing I can hope for them, and for all of us in the entire region, is that after this war, Hamas will no longer exist.